Hello and good morning to all of you. This is Dr. Muhammad Arif, and we will continue our journey of research field and how things are being done in this arena and how things are being progressed towards different things. So last time we discussed about introduction to the research, then we discussed about the literature review and identification of literature gaps or research gaps that we discussed in our previous videos. Today we will be discussing about the what should be in your mind, or as a researcher, what is in the mind of a researcher while he or she is going to conduct any research, especially when you go through the literature review and you identify a literature gap over there. After that, what should come into your mind, and those questions we will tackle today. So the first thing that can come into your mind is comparison. By comparison, I mean that when you find that there is a certain gap in the literature, and this gap must be further explored with a research, so you perform your research work. So when you perform your research work, you try with the comparison in your mind would be that you will be trying to compare the results or the findings of your research with the previous literature or research that has been published. So as a researcher, one of the question in your mind could be comparison, that you want to compare the results of your research with the other one. The second thing that normally comes into the minds of a researcher is exploration. So for exploration is that you identified a research gap, and you are now the things circulate in your mind, whether should I circulate my whether should I compare perform a research and compare my results to those previous ones, or should I explore the same hypothesis further. So in order to explore the hypothesis further, so the things that can arise in your mind can be said to be as exploration, so that you are trying to explore things further. So exploration is a very important thing, especially when in a hypothesis or a research question is being explored by some scientists or very few ones, and you want to re-explore it. So exploration would be re-exploration could lead to some new results as well. So again, then those new results you can share in the form of comparison with the previous one, or your methodology could be different, your settings could be different. So important thing is that you explore that previously developed research question further to find what other things are remaining, or is it completely being covered from every angle. The third one is the explanation. So as a researcher, as once again I said, I will tell you, you identify the research gap, you identify the literature gap, your mind could come up with different suggestions, like comparison. You want to do comparison, comparative study, you want to do exploratory study. In this context, the next thing that can come into your mind is explanation. By explanation, and exploration. There is a difference between explanation and exploration. Exploration tests the same hypothesis with a different methodology. You are, or with the different variables. Explanation means the same hypothesis, the same variable, the same settings, but you are repeating it. You can say it is a confirmative test, a sort of confirmative test towards the previous researches that has been done. So explanation and exploration are, both of them are different. In exploration, we explore the same hypothesis with a different methodology. In explanation, we explain the same hypothesis with the same setting, with the same methodology, with the same variables further, and we try to perform a sort of a city confirmative test. Like in chemistry, salt analysis, we used to do the confirmative tests, whether this salt is this one or not. So it's a sort of a confirmative test research. So you are reconfirming the title or the hypothesis over there. Now the fourth thing that can occur into your mind is causal relationships. By causal relationships, once again, I would explain the story again, that you are trying to perform a research, you identified the literature, you went through all of that literature, you identified the research gaps, and now you think that what is causing this thing? Now, what is causing this thing is you want to explore it. So the causal relationships, for causal relationships, you want to explore the cause of an event or a research question or an outcome as well. These type of questions mostly occurs if, for example, I take the outbreak researches. As a public health expert, whenever an outbreak occurs and you are being deployed into the field, so as you will be working as an investigation officer, your main job would be to collect data and define the cause of this research. So causal relationship research is very important, and it is commonly practiced in the field of public health. The most interesting thing is that the causal there are statistical tests that can, for example, the odds ratios, the relative risks, you can talk about the correlations and regressions. These four statistical tests can really define the causal relationship in a better way. So associations could be explained with the odds and the relative risks. Then the impact of that one on the dependent variable would be depending on the can be explained through the regression or the other methods. So the fifth thing that can arise into your mind after literature gap is that theory testing research. Theory testing. Theory testing means that you come up with a theory, or there is another. It is a sort of explanation of research, but in explanation research we do the confirmative tests, but in theory testing there is a theory and it has not been practically performed or being assessed. So you want to do it in practical world. So that things could be said to be as a theory testing, and you are trying to do some testings in theory. You're testing a theory or a hypothesis testing. You can say you developed an hypothesis and you want to test it in the real world. That would be a theory testing. So theory building research is the next one. Now, in the theory building, if a theory building comes into your mind that after literature gap that there is a need to revise the theory and new theory must be established, or new guidelines must be established. So that is said to be as a theory building questionnaire, or your questionnaire, or the thought of a researcher is to develop a theory. Now, in theory development is basically done in the, we have two types of researches, that is the quantitative and the qualitative. So the theory building is mostly done in the qualitative research, because the qualitative research, especially the ethnography, could lead to the development of any hypothesis, or you can say or a theory that can be retested through the theory testing process in the field. The last thing that can occur into the minds of a researcher while doing is the action research, or actions. Now, for actions, what we need is data driven, evidence based research. So data driven evidence based research means action. Action means that we call it in our own word as a operational research as well. Something is a program like polio program, like measles program, like other program. You want to assess those actions. Those actions, or your approach would be data driven evidence based approach. You can suggest things, changes on spot for the improvement of the certain points that you identify. So operational research is important. Operational research mostly works with the help of the KPIs, the key performing indicators of any project or any program, and you will be comparing your findings to the benchmarks of these key performing indicators. If your research is fulfilling and completing and reaching to the benchmarks of these KPI, so you can say that your operational research or your operational activities are being well addressed. So in last, once again, we have as a researcher, different things can arise after going through your literature. You can come up that you want to compare your result. You can come up you want to explore your result. You can come up you want to explain your result. You want to explain the causal relationships, the theory testing, the theory building, or action research. What do you want? So these points will lead to the development of your research objectives. What will these points do? All of them will do, will help you to develop your objectives of the research. So thank you very much. Hope that I explained these key points and terms, and we will continue with this journey further ahead, and hope that you guys have liked it. Once again, please like, subscribe, and share the channel with your colleagues and friends, so that the stream of knowledge continues further. So thank you very much for giving me your time, and